Welcome to the first video for Think and Grow Rich. I hope you can hear me well. Not to make any excuses, but that's what I'm going to do right off the bat. I thought I had my microphone. I got to make sure I find the microphone so that it doesn't sound like there's a valley between me and the computer. But for now, this is what I'm going to have to do to make this video work. All right. So I am a persistent person for the most part, so that's what I'm gonna make happen. I'm a persistent person when I work on it and do it intentionally. Hopefully, y'all are having a great week and reading each night. I did, however, Sunday fail to read it or listen to it whatsoever. How did I do that? I have no idea. But I got up Monday morning and thought about it, and I actually thought, wow, I didn't pay attention. So starting Monday, I had to start from day one, but no big deal. That just means I get more out of it, right? So what I'm going to do is just go over a few notes that I have here and make sure that basically that I'm giving you the information that I get out of the book so that you can maybe learn something from that or take it and say, this guy is crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then that's important too because I want to know what you think about the things that I say. Great feedback is always helpful. All right. So you can either leave comments on the video or you can call me or text me or you can put them on the webpage, whatever. All right. But I look forward to hearing back from what you guys have to say about this too. And then again, Saturday morning, we'll get together on the phone, hopefully Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Although that's 5 a.m. for Andrew in Hawaii. That seems to be the best time for all of us, or at least the most of us. So, look for the emails coming out and all that. I got to change to the new website because I wasn't able to get that recorded. Again, I'm going, actually what this is, all of a sudden I had this idea again to put this, let's get this together. And sometimes you just have to take action, not knowing whether or not you have everything you need. I don't know if you ever do analysis paralysis, but if you just keep waiting for everything to be perfect, it's probably not going to be. I probably could have waited till it was a little more perfect, but really, I just needed to get started, and I know that from me learning about myself over the past several years is if I don't just jump in, it's probably not going to happen. So, all right, I'm going to stop rambling and talk about persistence because that's chapter 9, and that's what we should be reading. Those of you that are following the plan, you should be done on this Sunday by your 14 days. But no matter what, like me, I'm going to have to keep reading persistence for 14 days straight, even as we go on to the next few chapters, okay? So we'll get that started too. All right, so you might see me glancing to the left a little bit here. Sometimes that's because that's my notes, and I'm getting this back. I'm relearning my speaking and my speaking habits, and that's also why I wanted to do this kind of extra work into the course / mastermind group. And I know I keep calling it a course / mastermind, kind of maybe just out of habit. It's definitely a mastermind, especially if we all collaborate and talk about it, right? That's why if one of you can Saturday morning, talk 10, 15, 5 minutes, whatever, a little bit about your experience with persistence or with the book, kind of whatever you want to talk about, and then we all discuss it. If not, I'll have something ready. So without further ado, I'll quit rambling, as I said already. And just something that I wanted to preface all this with is a thought that I had today while I was working on the ship. But have you ever thought that, I'm just going to read this. Have you ever thought that you should feel like you are making things happen and that things are happening for you? And I ask it that way because a lot of people think that everything's collaborating against them, right? So if you're in that kind of mindset, that was, I talked a little bit about the lack mindset. Everybody's against me. The world's out to get me. The Navy, the Marine Corps is out to get me, whatever. Everything sucks because everything is out to get me. Just think of that reverse mindset of everything's out here to help me. And that's the abundance mindset. And I just had that today, and I wanted to pass that on to you. You should feel that the universe is working for you, or God, or however it words for you. The universe is conspiring to help you get to your next level, whatever that might be. Maybe you're already there, but it's always conspiring to help you do what you're trying to do. All right. Uh, I had lots of stuff to say, as you imagine, or could figure out already. I like to talk and I like to discuss stuff. So going through this book, I had to cut out a lot of the notes that I might have said, or this video might be 3 hours long or something. All right, I'm trying to keep it under 30 minutes, especially because I know everybody's busy. Also, the audio will be available if you don't have a second to watch the video. Okay, so with that said, let's move on here. So, have you ever heard of 10,000 Hours? 10,000 Hours is a book that says that it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert at something, whatever it might be. So, if you want to learn to play the guitar or play ice hockey or be an instructor, it takes 10,000 hours of practice, right? Get started, and it takes 10,000 hours to get good at what you're doing. And actually, 10,000 hours will get you to be an expert. And I tell you that because my son Simon was asking me about the book called 10,000 Hours the other day, and so it just reminded me about that. In this course, I don't know the amount of hours you're going to spend reading it or listening to these things, if you're going to listen to any of these or whatever. But there's another book called The First 20 Hours, and the first 20 hours is I forget the author's name, Josh something. He said it takes 20 hours to get good enough at something that you'll know if you like it, and if you want to continue to, invest 10,000 hours in it to become an expert. But a lot of things, you can just put that 20 hours in and be good enough. If you want to learn to play the guitar, just good enough so that you can kind of, do some songs, then 20 hours should be good. I estimate that this course over 8 weeks, you might put 20 hours into it through the reading and through the through the mastermind meeting on Saturday morning, plus maybe some extra stuff that you might be doing. So I'm saying that because I'm telling you that you're going to probably just be good enough to kind of wonder if you want to continue with the level of commitment and persistence that it takes to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, which is different for everyone, of course, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But I wanted to bring that up about the book 10,000 Hours and also 20,000 Hours. So 20 hours. All right. If you look on page 131 of your book, right, at least that's in my book. This is the version of the book that I have, the 1936 edition. It's got highlights, This is about the 10th time I've gone through the book in the past couple of years. But the second time I've actually gone through the book with a fine-tooth comb. 10 times I started it, finished, put it down, started it, finish it, or not even finish it, put it down. So I've gone through the whole book that many times, but actually read it really good 2 times. All right. This book is outstanding. I had another version of the same book, just with a different cover too. And your cover may be a little bit different too, So, and you might be using a PDF. But persistence is a quality to man as carbon is to steel. And if you don't know about the carbon to steel thing, you probably figured out that carbon is a key ingredient in steel. You can't have steel without carbon. As a matter of fact, carbon is the ingredient that turns iron into steel. And so that's what I believe that Napoleon Hill is talking about, that kind of binding nature of persistence to being like the carbon creating steel. So you need that persistence kind of embedded in you. And there's all kinds of different ways you could look at that too. The steel being hardened is hardened by that the steel is hardened by the carbon. You're hardened by the persistence. That's kind of how I looked at it as well. You're hardened by that persistence, and the more you persist, the more you become committed, and the closer you get to your goal, the more that persistence. So it's kind of like takes a little bit first, and okay, I see what that did, and then once you get that and you get the confidence and your courage goes up, okay, now you put a little bit more into it and a little bit more, and over time that persistence becomes more and more robust, and so therefore you're becoming hardened to the negative influences, you could say. Now, the flip side to that is that too much carbon makes the steel very hard, but it also makes it become more brittle. So if you think about that, is it possible to put too much persistence into your life? And I'll just leave that as an open question. I think too much of anything can be looked at like that. Too much of anything can become bad. So even too much of a good thing like persistence can become bad. So be careful with that balance. Finding that right balance is important. So if you feel like, okay, I'm persisting too much and letting other things go, maybe you have to take a look at that, okay, in your own life. And again, everybody's going to be different. If you have a family, there's certain ways you got to approach things. If you're single, there's certain ways you can approach things. So just consider that. That's from the book, though. That persistence is to man as carbon is to steel. Okay. Now, did you fail your first test? Which was, right, to go back to chapter 2 and start those, write down your desires, right, and write down your goals and follow the 6 steps to riches. So I don't know if you did that or not. The first time I went through this course, I did not follow that. I just did exactly what he told me to do. I read the chapter 14 days in a row. And then on the first meeting, he said, hey, did you actually go back and follow the steps that Napoleon Hill put in there? No, I didn't. So I went back and started doing that. And I got it all written out now and everything else. And like I said, Saturday, it kind of changed a little bit too since then. But number one, you got to come up with an exact amount you desire. Okay, and there is, again, he's talking about money, tying money to this. Because that's the whole point of this the kind of that word rich, right? But it can be anything. You have to. The point is to pick something exact, right? So it's the exact amount you desire. Long time ago, back in 2014, my exact amount was $1 million by 2021. Well, now that I'm a little bit older, a little bit more mature, read a few more books, had a few more tests, through life and everything, it's not quite 2021. And I also reevaluate to say, you know what, maybe that $1 million is a far stretch for me right now. I can't even kind of picture having $200,000. That doesn't seem real to me yet. So I have to be more realistic with my goals. And that's exactly why I changed it to $60,000 by 2021 for a down payment on a house. Okay. So I'm exact. I want $60,000. All right, that's exactly what I'm going to build into this plan. What do I tend to give? Right, you can't get something without giving. All right, it doesn't work the other way. You can't get it. You can't get it and then give. You have to give to get. And so in a way, what are you willing to give? It's no telling. It's limitless of what you can give. Right now, what I'm giving is giving time and effort and study. I'm devoting that to my goals of making that $60,000. All right. So this video is part of that. I'm giving my time to you all so that to help you, but it also is helping me work towards my goals, right? Of building different skills that I can use, other than where I'm working now. It could be, just multiple things. Making a video is something that a lot of people are very scared to do. So they don't even want to sit down and make a video because they don't like their voice, or they don't like the way they look, or they don't know how it works. And so just being able to learn that skill of sitting in front of this and making the video and then uploading it and then somebody else watching it, kind of going through a bunch of fears. So I'm willing to do that for my goal. Other thing I'm willing to do is read a book a week if possible, and if I can't, then I'm working towards that. So I'm giving up time for that as well, and giving up, that's kind of where I'm going with that. What are you going to intend to give up? Okay. And that's, it doesn't mean all the time, and actually not give up. That was wrong. That was the wrong words. And I'm going to cover this in a minute, but I'm going to, since I said it that way, my own mind said, what are you willing to give up? It's not about what are you willing to give up. He says, what are you willing to give? All right, and that's what I'm doing, is giving time. Many people say, "Well, I'll give up chocolate, or I'll give up, chips. I'll give up this." It's not about what you'll give up. You will end up giving up some things, like TV, or you might switch TV. And that's the thing about it, is giving up something is switching, okay, or it's giving up something for something else. That's not what he's talking about. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure you understand, what are you willing to give, because it's harder to give something, especially if you really don't have a lot of it. Okay, but the more you give, the more you will get. So definite date. The definite date that I have right now is July 26th, 2021. Why that date? Well, that's my birthday in 2021. Also, that's after my youngest daughter Madison will graduate, and that'll be the time that my wife and I want to buy a house somewhere. I think here, and I think in Colorado, maybe two houses. All right, but I know the definite. I want $60,000 by July 26th, 2021. Write a clear, concise statement. I got my clear, concise statement in my journal, and also kind of interlaid inside the book, where through the six things here. Right here it says 1 million. I haven't gone back to change that one yet, but in the book it's still exactly as it was in 2014. But in my journal, I've changed it to the 2018 version. But you definitely have to write that out. You got to write the plan, a definite plan on what you plan to give, and it's going to list out all these in the book. Later on, we'll go over that there's a whole paragraph that you can just write verbatim, except change the numbers to yours. Then read that statement twice daily, before bed and in the morning. All right. Now, I did that for a little bit and then stopped, and that's one of those things that I need to give time to, is to actually do that step. Why is that important? Because it's gonna embed it in your head. Okay, the more you think about something, the more likely it is to come true, right? Actually, it's gonna come true. And it's kind of like that other thing too. Have you ever bought a car, or somebody else bought a car, and then you see that car everywhere? Why? Because that car is fresh on your mind, all right, and it's brand new in your head. So you see that car everywhere, even though before you bought the car, you never saw that before, probably, or you never noticed it. So what's in your mind is so you're saying it twice a day keeps it fresh in your mind, and it keeps you moving towards it. All right, and that's the important piece of that. Read the statement twice daily, before bed and in the morning. And then figuring out what you truly desire. That's tougher than some people think. It might seem like very easy, but it's, we can all kind of say, well, I desire to be rich, or I desire, to live in Glenwood Springs, or to live in San Diego, or I desire to be, the circus grandmaster at the circus, or whatever. I can't remember what they're called. But the guy at the circus, or the lady at the circus who's running the whole show. Whatever it is you desire. But that's not specific enough. It has to be very specific. And it's not just something that you want. Desire is different than want. You have to really desire it, all right? And if you use that word desire, you'll start to feel a difference in how what you're going after becomes more real. I used the word want earlier, okay? And I'm just now thinking of that. I used the word that I want $60,000, all right? And that's why it's so important for this. What I'm doing right now is reflecting in front of you, because I know that maybe you picked that up, and it's coming back, and that's the importance of the mastermind group. And that's why I'm so excited that we're doing this. I desire the $60,000, all right? And I deeply desire that $60,000 so that I can put a down payment on a house, either here or in Colorado, all right? And that's how I have to think of that, and I have to say that every day, plus the rest of the statement. And I talked a little bit here about I've had weak desires in the past, and that's why probably I haven't accomplished exactly what I wanted to, because I was never exact or strong enough in my beliefs or strong enough in the way that I talk. But it takes practice, depending on how your brain is wired currently, will depend on how long it takes you to reach your goals and stuff like that. And how much you commit and how much you can put into it. And again, that's going to be different for everyone based on based on your commitments you already have. All right, because you can't just stop all your commitments, like to the military or to your family or to loved ones, other things, or college. You can't just quit that to do this. I mean, I guess you could, but that all depends on you. So weak desires won't work. You got to have a strong desire, and it takes work. Trust me. You got to work at it every day. You got to figure out how you're going to keep yourself on track and move towards those goals. Goal setting isn't really about accomplishing a specific goal, and I don't mean it in the way that I don't mean it to contradict what I just said, where you have to be very specific. But goal setting, and the reason I say it like that, it's not about a specific goal or a specific time set, but it's about setting that specific goal and then moving towards that specific goal in a specific time frame. But that's to keep you moving forward. All right, my goal for Glenwood Springs and for Colorado and for having a scholarship program for kids that want to play hockey, and a scholarship program for kids that want to go to school or trade school or college or some other kind of training. Those dreams pulled me through. All right, so those are very specific. There's very specific things that I see, like $1,000 scholarship for a senior that wants to do specific things that would, the criteria haven't been delved up yet, but maybe $500 for a kid that wants to play hockey and can't afford the gear. Those are very specific. $60,000 for a house. I have to become more specific where it's going to be, here or Glenwood Springs, but very specific. But if I don't ever make it to living in Glenwood Springs, moving towards that goal, having that time frame by 2020, actually we'll be there, 2021 I think is the 2022, because that's 5 years after retirement. Well, if I don't make that specific goal and that specific timeline, doesn't mean that I failed miserably and I have to stop doing what I'm doing, right? It just means that I have not made that goal at that specific time. What it means is that I've learned a lot because I've worked towards that, all right? And that's what I mean by not, it doesn't mean that you have to, all right, I'm getting wrapped around there. Basically, you see what I'm saying, though, I hope. And if you don't, then ask questions. Maybe that's a good point of question asking Saturday. We can hash that out on what exactly I'm trying to point out there. And that's kind of what I mean by mastermind, where we can help each other, get those things worked out. So I'm going to leave that one alone until then. Remember that you're setting the goal with your current mindset, all right? Your current mindset, knowledge of the world is what you're setting your goal with. When I set the $1 million, all right, I believed I could make $1 million by 2021. Fast forward a few years, and I learned a little bit more about myself and the way things work. I see that's not the way it is anymore. So you're going to make some adjustments to your goals and your specific timelines, I'm sure. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but making sure that you have something to work towards is probably the important part. Chances are you'll set a date for that achievement, and you'll probably miss it. You might set a goal for, hey, I desire $1,000 a month starting in July, and you do everything you can. Possibly, you only know if you do everything you possibly can. You do everything you possibly can, and you just don't get it, right? But it happens in August. Or maybe you do everything you possibly can and it happens in May. So the time, again, not that specific time, is only to get you moving and work towards that goal. If you don't make it, that's okay. You might get it before, you might get it afterwards, but putting in that work, that's the important part. you've heard it before. It's not what you get; it's the journey, right? So, uh, the point the point is looking out there and seeing where you'd like to go. Like I say, my goals they're pulling me towards the future. All right, it's very weird, and that's another point that we can kind of maybe talk about Saturday if anybody wants to. Is the difference between remaining present, being present, and being happy with current environment and current self, but still working towards the future. Sometimes I ask myself, why would I be so set on working towards something in the future if I'm happy with everything it is now? Um, so if anybody can help me with that one too, if you have any insight into that, hey, I need to I need to pick your brain. Okay, but the point is to make the goal, work towards that goal, and do everything you can to meet exactly what you set. But you got to be happy knowing that you're pursuing something, all right, and you're going to get something out of that, and it's probably going to be very close to what you're actually working towards. The more specific and the more you work, the more it's going to come out. Okay. The time frame is so that you won't procrastinate, right? Have you ever said, I'm gonna cut the grass on Sunday, then you procrastinate. You should have already done it. But that's the reason for the time frame. The point of the goal is to learn along the way, for sure. And as you move toward it, you'll learn more about yourself and you'll learn more about others. Life is going to happen, and you'll kind of see how it fits in. Okay, don't be afraid to sit down and reevaluate every so often. John Maxwell was in a group with John Maxwell team, and John Maxwell, he's a writer of leadership books. They call him the leadership guru. What he does is sits down from the day after Christmas till January 1st, and he looks in his journal. He wrote in his journal all year. He looks in there and he figures out what he's done, what he needs to do still, and then kind of sets his intentions for the next year. I tried that for 2 years. I liked it, but I also didn't like it. So I don't do that. I set my goals as I go, and like I told you, these goals about Glenwood Springs in Colorado, and building these kind of philanthropy things, investing in art and investing in real estate. All those have been pulling me towards the future already, and it's those. So and I sit down every so often and I reevaluate where am I at. And sometimes we think, well, maybe not Glenwood Springs, but maybe somewhere closer to or close to Glenwood Springs, but that allows more access to different things. So we value, and then it comes back. No, Glenwood Springs is it. And so sit down and reevaluate your stuff every so often. It could be every 6 months or once a week, whatever you're willing to commit to that. As you learn more about who you are, that's when you're going to start to make some changes. Let's see. I like to just take a more natural flow to it. Like as I think about something, and now not wishy-washy. I don't change it all the time. Here I'm going to do this and this. I try to commit to something like this. This mastermind really helps build that commitment, and that it's an anti-procrastination tool. It forces me to do these kind of things, like I said, to make these videos, to write blog posts, to it really makes me get into that mindset, that action mindset. So that's why I like these mastermind groups. Let's see. Then again, I look at it a little bit different too. I think of, like I told you, these dreams that are out there. They're pulling me towards the future, I think. And those dreams are the big picture, all right? And then inside there is all the stepping stones to those dreams. The stepping stones are the goals, all right? Those tasks that I have to complete to make those goals, are the little stones in between. But those are very short-term goals and tasks. This is my philosophy on it. So that's what I'm talking about as far as the way that I think about it. And you're going to have a different way to think. Again, something that we could talk about Saturday. Sorry for all the uhs too. I'm got to get out of that habit. Woo! Don't aim too big. Whoa! What are you saying, Matt? Again, think about what you're willing to believe. Okay, if you're willing and understand that you can, set a goal for $1 million or $1 billion and make it in your time frame, go for it. But to me, like I said, $200,000 really it's not really realistic to my brain to think that I could have $200,000 in the bank, right? Uh, so the stretch to me is to have 60,000 in the bank, and I've told you before, probably because I have that debt there that I'm still working on paying. So the dream isn't to pay off the debt, but to have $60,000 net worth, let's say, so that I can put it into that house. So to you, $60,000, you might think, well, I got more than that already. So why would I set that as a goal? Of course, that's true. You might see $200,000 as your goal. You might see $1 million. You might not even see money. You might see a house as your goal. So that's what I'm saying. Don't aim too big. Make sure it's realistic to your current thinking, and then add a little bit, right? So if 50,000 is your goal, then just to give it that little bit of a stretch, do 60,000. Okay, or you see what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by don't aim too big. Most people aim too big and they fail, and then they quit because they say it doesn't work, right? So if you got to figure out on your own how that works for you. Okay, I don't quit. I'm persistent. I made the $1 million thing and then figured out for me $1 million is not realistic. But after I do the 60,000, then I can say, oh, okay, I see that working now. Let me set, my next goal is 100,000, right? And then my next goal is 200, then 400, then million. So over the next 10 years, it grows in that. And so that's kind of how you're going to think about that. If you set your goal realistically now, could be small. You need to build the belief, understand that you can do it, and then every time you do it, your courage and your belief will go up, and you'll see that you'll definitely start to improve and get better at it. Okay, does that make sense? Again, something else to talk about Saturday if you want. If you don't believe it, you won't achieve it. Always know that. Okay, just looking through my notes here. Looks like I've covered everything. Okay, so kind of think about this too. Think about what you're willing to give up. Sorry, what are you willing to give? Okay, keep me honest there. What are you willing to give? Are you willing to give your time? Are you willing to give your best effort? Are you willing to give your full focus? Your full attention? Are you willing to give some money? Not to me. Are you willing to give money in order to get it? I've taken some. I've taken courses. Some mastermind groups I've had to pay for. Some of the classes I've taken, I've paid for. The most I've paid for one kind of access to a group was $5,000 to the John Maxwell group, which is in that debt that I now owe. But I did gain a lot, and I still have full access, and I still couldn't go back in there and study it, and I actually do. So it was an awesome investment that's going to pay off for the rest of my life. Just however, the money that I use for it is in the debt. That's kind of good debt, right? An investment in myself and in my future, in the family's future, and everything else. So, but what are you willing to give towards that? All right, it could be money, could be passion, could be patience, could be love. Okay, think about what you want and what you will have to do to get that. What are you willing to give in order to get what you want? Rival point vibration. All right, here's where it gets a little bit weird. Maybe some of you don't understand the vibration thing and all that. I fully believe that all living beings have some sort of vibration. We're all vibrating at some frequency. The frequency you're at can be seen in your attitude. All right, some people's frequencies very low and kind of depressed. Other people's frequencies very high. And some is in the middle. But remember we talked about what the goals you make now are going to be based on your current frequency, your current mindset, the current environment. So when you make those goals, you know, where you're at in where I'm at in 2021 is not the same person I'm going to be today. So when I set this goal, I'm setting it from today's vibration, from today. I have to think about 2021 when I have that $60,000. What does that feel like? What does that vibration feel like? What does Matt Ditzworth with $60,000 for a house do? I have to act in that manner. Okay, so if I don't do that, then chances are I'm not going to buy into it and follow it out. And I'm not going to understand how to do it. If I do buy into it, I'm going to know what that $60,000 feels like. I'm going to know, I'm going to look at it in the bank. I'm going to see it in there in my head. I can make props for it or whatever. You know, you can write the check like Jim Carrey wrote a check, I think it was for $10 million by a certain year. And he put it in his wallet and he became an actor. Well, he was already working towards it, but he got the, can't remember which movie, but it made him $10 million. I think it was Dumb and Dumber. $10 million. The story is on YouTube if you look it up. So, anyways, he was already thinking in that what is called in by Paul Martinelli, the guy that I went through this course with, that you're at your departure point vibration now. You have to think in your arrival point departure or your arrival point vibration. What does Matt Ditzworth with $60,000 in the bank for a house do? That's what I need to do. Okay, now, not then, but now. And if I do that, that's going to create that future vibration. It's going to pull me towards that even faster or even more efficient. Okay, again, something else we can cover more if you want. Let's see here. Okay, and that can work with anything. You know, think about if you want to be let's say you want to be a manager of a place. You know, so you have to think in that manager. What would the manager do in this situation, or what would the manager say in this situation? If you think like that, that's gonna pull you into that situation and put you there already. Your departure point right now, you will get to your arrival point much faster if you can figure out what that arrival point feels like and what that arrival point person would do. That's a whole different person up there because they have what you want, in a sense, right? They have what you desire. Your future self has what you desire. So how does that person act and think and do? And what is it that they do? What does that boss do? Matt Ditzworth, that's maybe, running Life's Wealth Development group. What does he do? That's the business that I'm developing. I have some examples here to give me quick ideas. If you want to be a chief, or you want to be a staff sergeant, or you want to be a gunnery sergeant, or you want to be, the best cybersecurity person, whatever. I don't know what all those guys are. If you want to be that, what do they do? How do they think? What do they do? And that's what you got to be doing. Okay. Even when you want to meet someone, if you want to meet, let's say you wanted to meet, let's say you wanted to meet Bill Gates. What does a person that Bill Gates would sit down and talk to? What is that person like? All right. That's the person you have to become. All right. You're not going to change Bill Gates, but you got to change yourself. What does that person do? What do they think? What do they read? Who do they talk to in order to talk to Bill Gates? All right. This is a great topic. And again, for Saturday, we can definitely cover that more. Fortunes gravitate to people who think in that fashion. Okay, your fortune is waiting for you. It's already there. Let's see. You will never be given more than you can handle. All right. So if you set that $1 million goal, and really you don't learn how to manage your 50,000 that you have now, or whatever it is you have now, how are you going to manage the 1 million? It's not going to happen. So you have to learn to manage what you have now and use it the way that you would already be using it if you had $1 million. Okay, does that make sense? Again, that's thinking in the long term and the arrival vibration. I'm already trying to figure out, how do I set up a scholarship for a kid that's a senior? How do I do that? I'm not going to wait till I have the money to do that. I have to start doing it now. Okay. think I beat that up a lot. So hopefully we'll go over this more in the book. Just think about page 136. I'm almost done here, so I just wanted to read, go over some of these real quick. You can train yourself to be persistent, right? Definite of purpose, also known as intentionally doing stuff. You have to intentionally do stuff in order to make this work. You can't just hope that it works. Desire, we already talked about that. Not about want, but desire. That strong feeling of desire, right? It's comparatively easy to acquire and maintain persistence in pursuit of an object of intense desire. All right, and I sent that thing out with Elon Musk. Think of his desire to not only fulfill what he said he would fulfill, but also, his orders on time, but also the product that he wants to put out there. Think of that persistence that is taken with all of his products. Do you know he's burrowing? He's boring underneath of LA. Self-reliance. Okay, you got to believe in yourself. You got to be able to pull yourself through. That doesn't mean you can't ask for help, and you shouldn't, but you definitely should. But you got to be able to do stuff on your own and make it happen, because not everybody's going to be looking out for your stuff. So joining a group like this, again, is good. Definiteness of plans, accurate knowledge, all right? Knowing what you're trying to do, knowing how to do it, right? Can't just guess on how to become the next Bill Gates or the next Warren Buffett. Cooperation, again, kind of in this environment. Willpower, and also building cooperation with other people. Having the willpower to do what you're supposed to do, and then habit, building those good habits. Okay, 138, 139. I'm not going to read all these, but this is a checklist, all right? Right? Checklist to find out. Take your own persistence inventory. I would definitely say take this persistence inventory for yourself and figure out if you're lacking in any of these. That's where you need to figure out how to get it strengthened. And it might be just being in this group is going to help you get it strengthened. That's all I have. Page 142, actually. Okay, so yeah, persistence, how to develop persistence again. But that's all I have to say. I'm not going to put a summary together. If you want to, you can go back and listen again or watch it. If you even watched it this first time. But thank you if you did. I appreciate your time. Like I said, I'm hoping this is about 30 minutes long. And really be persistent with it, okay? And if you fail, just be persistent. Go back and do it again. Start over. Use this mastermind group over the next 8 weeks, especially to help build your persistence, to help build your belief, to help work through the problems. It never hurts to throw out an idea into the group and let everybody kind of pick it apart and figure out how to help you with that. We can all pick it apart and apply our own knowledge to it. That's the important piece of this. Ask questions, though, for sure. Not to me, but to all of us. Practice being persistent. And next week, we go into the author's preface and thoughts are things. Thoughts are things, that's one of my favorite subjects, and thinking about the way that, what is a thought? That energy that you're generating a brand new idea in there. That's crazy. So take it easy. Have a great week. I'm going to post this here probably tonight or tomorrow, right before 5 p.m. Being persistent and making sure that I do the right thing. All right. Take care of yourselves. Have a great night and appreciate your time. Have a great one.